Thanks for making your way back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Just the Worst Podcast, episode number 7. I'm your host, Billy Donnelly, who you can find at thisisinfamous.com as well as joeblow.com. And, of course, here at Just the Worst Podcast. And week in, week out, what we like to try and do here on the show is dip into Hollywood, dip into the movie industry, and see what's been going on. See the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, the interesting news stories that have arisen over the past week or so. Break them down, put them into context, and tell you why they're important or why they're not, and try to provoke some type of intelligent discussion on your end, maybe some perspective, maybe some ideas and thoughts you hadn't really considered when you were trying to formulate your own opinion as you came across these things. So we try to educate and inform a little bit while also entertain, and that's the point of the show. So this week, not slow, but the Star Wars dominated week is what we had. We talked last week about the brand new trailer for Star Wars The Force Awakens, as well as the brand new poster, and that really dominated the entire week. Kind of just sucked all the oxygen out of the news cycle for essentially 7 days, where all anybody did was talk about the Star Wars trailer, or break down the Star Wars trailer, or try to analyze the Star Wars trailer, or try to figure out what it all meant. We discussed this last week with the over-analyzation of what all this means, what's going on here, and it was just ratcheted up throughout the week, to the point where you couldn't avoid it. It was everywhere. Even if you tried to avoid it, it would just pop up somewhere. It was like whack-a-mole for like the Force Awakens think pieces. And as a result, everyone kind of stayed away from it, much like they're doing in December. You know, you have Star Wars opening on the 18th. This other Alvin and the Chipmunks movie is getting thrown to the wolves. And then far too many films are probably dropping on Christmas Day, as is customary. But I imagine if the Star Wars beast continues to be massive heading through the holidays, a lot of those movies are just going to get killed at the box office. They should be staying away as best they can. But look, that's the Star Wars placement on the 18th. And here, what wound up happening over the last week is a lot of news just stayed away from Star Wars. They're just going to get killed. Like nobody was paying any attention to anything else that was going on. A couple of things here and there came up, but nothing on a major level, because once again, the focus was entirely on Star Wars. Right now, we're in a Star Wars dominated society when it comes to the movies. You know, franchises are a big deal, but right now, Marvel's taking a backseat, DC's taking a backseat. Everything is on Star Wars because that's the next thing. Even James Bond feels like an afterthought right now with Spectre. And James Bond has been around 50 years. And just getting treated completely disrespectfully because it's not Star Wars. You're like, oh yeah, another Bond. Yeah, well, you know, we've had a bunch of those, so that's not all that special. But when it comes to Star Wars, it feels new again. The nostalgia's back, so we gotta tap into all of that. So one of the things that we talked about last week was once again the overanalyzation, and it seemed to come up again, like I said, this week, where far too many people are focused in trying to figure out what it means for Luke Skywalker to not be featured in any of the promotional material for the film right now. At least not on a grand level. You won't find him featured in the one sheet, in the final poster for Star Wars The Force Awakens. You won't really find him featured in the latest trailer, the final trailer for Star Wars The Force Awakens. Luke Skywalker right now is a mystery. A character that people know and understand is still around, but have no idea what it means. And which is fine. That's how it should be. J.J. Abrams and Lucasfilm and Disney have done a masterful job about keeping so much of the mystery intact as we barrel towards December. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing everything about a movie going in. I wish that was the normal far more often these days. Where you went into a movie, you knew very little, you knew just enough to want to make you see the movie, but not enough that you knew the movie in like a condensed version. Then you could sit in front of the movie and say, wow, this is great. It's all new to me. As opposed to having these great, big, awesome moments kind of spoiled ahead of time so that when you were really laughing at them or being excited by them or being thrilled by them or thinking that they're cool is when you see them on TV or on your computer screen or on your phone, and never actually when you're witnessing the final cut, the finished product of a film. So in that regard, I don't care where Luke Skywalker is right now. I'm going to find out eventually. Why do I need to know right this second? Why? What good does that do me other than when I sit down, I can be like, see, I'm smarter than I was a little while ago. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we need to feel smarter than the thing we're watching? Why can't we let the film just know more shit than we do going in and reveal it to us? Why do we need to make sure we know every last bit of information we could possibly get our hands on before we even sit our ass down in the seat? I don't care why he's not in the poster. I don't care why he's not in the trailer. It's not like they're not going to tell us. It's also not like they forgot. J.J. Abrams actually was actually asked about this. About where is he? Where is Luke Skywalker? And he responded by saying it's no accident. No shit. I mean, that's like a thank you, Captain Obvious answer. Although I found that he handled it beautifully because somebody actually felt the need to ask the question. As if they forgot to put him in there. Like, oh shit. Do we put Luke Skywalker in the trailer? Hey, do we put him in? No, I thought we were supposed to put him in at like 145. He's not. You didn't get him in there? What do we do now? The picture's locked, right? It's locked? Can we... The music and everything is all cut, right? Shit. I guess we'll just pretend it was on purpose. Like, that didn't happen that that didn't happen. It didn't happen that there was some type of oversight. That for some reason they left Luke Skywalker out. Did you put him in? No, I thought you were going to put him in. No, I specifically remember you being put on, like, get just a fraction of Luke Skywalker in there. Like, there was miscommunication on Luke Skywalker failing to make the cut. It's perfectly fine to wonder, hey, where is Luke Skywalker? But then, like, that should be it. Trying to then actually create the reasons why, or speculate or rumor create why it is just going overboard, especially since we're this close. Once again, we are less than 2 months. It's like a month and 3/4, a month and 2/3. And we will have seen Star Wars The Force Awakens in its entirety. And I guarantee you, once the final credits start rolling, we'll be able to say, ah, so that's where Luke Skywalker is. We'll have an idea, a direction. But some of this is just going it's too far, it's too much. Look, I understand that Star Wars gets traffic on the web right now. But that doesn't mean you have to devote every last second to just filling the Star Wars void when there's nothing to fill it with. Like, Chewbacca looked left instead of right. Typically, he looks right. What does it mean? Read my piece. This is once again sucking the fun out of Star Wars. This is where the fun gets just removed from Star Wars. And it's more than an obsession. It's not even an obsession. It's something else. I'm not even sure if there's a word to properly and accurately describe what this is. I'm all about fandom. I'm all about embracing your love for something. I'm all about riding the passion out. But this is something else. This gets to like the extreme level where you are removing the joy and the fun out of everything. Because there's no fun in this. There's no fun in just like pulling your hair out. Like, oh my God. What the fuck? Where is Luke Skywalker? I don't understand. I know he's in the movie. But why is he not in it? What are we doing here? What does this mean? What is he doing? Just let it go for a little while. Just let it go. All right. There are a couple other things I wanted to talk about. This includes Star Wars, I guess. But I ran into this week, and I tried to really wrap my hands around this, wrap my head around it too, and figure out like how this happened. And that is the rise of the Geek Persecution Complex, or the Nerd Persecution Complex, or the fan persecution complex, whatever it is that you want to call it. I mean, all the terms seem interchangeable at this point anyway. But there's this idea that, like, people are out to get your thing. And I don't understand it. I've been trying to understand it. And it feeds very much into sort of what we see on, like, the political realm, feeding into some type of fear that someone is out to screw your thing. They're biased against your thing. They hate your thing. And as a result, they're just going to try and tear it down and ruin it and make it not good, or be anti whatever. There's a hater. They hate your thing. And somehow you, because you are personally invested in it or you like it, somehow you and your thing are now victims to, I don't even know who, to the man, to who? See, this is what I don't understand. This is just not what I understand. I cannot understand it. Like, how this mentality comes about. How people begin to think in this way. Like, in real life, where there are actual stakes and people play into this fear, like, oh, this person's coming to get your job. This is going to change the normal way or the status quo. I get where that fear comes from. People don't like change in that respect, so they fear the change. There's no change going on here at all. There's no change in people looking at something, offering up a critique backed up by something, and all of a sudden that quote-unquote negativity is trying to undermine or destroy the amazing awesomeness of the thing. This thing, whatever it is. Be it Star Wars, be it a Marvel movie, be it a DC cinematic universe, be it really anything that is on such a high level of fandom where the devout and the devoted believe in it no matter what, wholeheartedly. They accept no criticism of the thing, that they criticize the criticizer of the thing, even when they've never seen the thing beforehand. These are the people that are, I just know I'm going to like it. I know it. I just know I'm going to love it. I haven't seen it yet, but I've made up my mind that I will love it regardless, because how could I not love this thing? How can I not give myself... It's very cult-like. Like it almost like plays into this idea of, like, if they don't enjoy this thing, then their fictional geek card's gonna be revoked, or somebody's gonna come in under the cover of night and take it away, even though it doesn't exist. And they have to feed into the group think, the mob mentality of this thing is awesome. And if you want to be a part of our community, you must be a true believer in every sense. And I keep running into it because there are things to look at all around us, even in regards to these major properties, where we say, nah, I don't know about that. Something looks off there. Nah, that doesn't do it for me. There's just something here that's just, it's not connecting me. I run into it all the time with Marvel. If you criticize anything Marvel, you're some type of Marvel hater. Some type of DC apologist. And vice versa. Criticize something on DC. And you're a DC hater who wants these movies to fail. And you hate them even though we haven't even seen any of them outside of Man of Steel. And oh, you must be a Marvel supporter. It's ridiculous. Criticizing something does not make you a hater. You don't have to love something wholeheartedly, every fabric of its existence, every fiber of its being. It doesn't need to be the way it is. It's okay. Look at your family. Look around at your family. There are things about every member of your family that piss you off to no end. That bother you. That irritate you. That annoy the shit out of you. That make you just grit your teeth and clench your fists and bite your tongue. And you know what? You love them anyway. In most cases. There are some people in your family, there are some families where you're just like, enough of this shit, I just can't. And you're distanced from them, or you separated them, or at some point you just threw down, you're like, fuck this. But by and large, even though you find fault and flaw with members of your family, you still love them. You still love them. You still look past those things that just bother you. And you still love them. You still call them up and wish them a happy birthday. You still send them a Christmas card. You'll still get together for Thanksgiving. Whatever. You still love them. However, using the mentality of the Geek Persecution Complex, that doesn't work here. Criticizing your family or seeing something wrong with your family makes you some sort of hater who doesn't truly love the family. You can't see a flaw in it. The flaw is awesome regardless. It's bizarre how this has worked. and how we've gotten to this point of taking some type of shroud of, some type of shreds, or some type of shred of criticism as negativity, blown up negativity, that then you can claim outrage on, and oh my god, we're the victims, they're out to get us. I got news for you. No matter what it is that you like, that you're passionate about, that you're a fan of, other people don't really give a shit. They don't. They don't care. Some people do. Those people have just as much issue as you do. Or as these people do. They care about everything that doesn't really concern them. Everything becomes a problem for them. And we'll get into a little of that in just a bit, talking about Adam Sandler. But they can't just let certain things go. They have to themselves be extremely bothered by what other people enjoy. Those are the haters. Those are the true haters. The people that go out of their way to say, you like this. Fuck you for liking this. Even though entertainment and enjoyment is in the eye of the beholder. One man's trash is another's treasure. Or woman's in this case. It doesn't really matter. You like something? By all means, go ahead and like it. I don't care. And I think part of it comes with age a little bit, and wisdom. You know, when you're younger, you're just like, this is the way of the world. The way of the world is the way that I think it should be. And anybody who isn't on board with that, fuck them. They're wrong. And it's not really the way of the world. You have your opinion, you have your perspective, you have your ideas. And if somebody doesn't conform to that, if somebody has their own, that's okay. That's okay. But people get so outraged about what other people like when what does it matter? How does it affect your life? No one is invalidating your fandom. I say this all the time when I have to review something and people get pissed that I didn't like what they like. What does it matter? I didn't like the thing. So what? You do? Awesome. More power to you. But to go out of your way to tear it down because you feel invalidated, because you're insecure in your fandom, that's bullshit. You want to like Transformer movies? Go ahead. What do I care? They don't do it for me. They do it for you. Psh, whatever. Go ahead. I may try to steer you in another direction, saying, well, maybe if you tried this other thing, you might also like it. But if you're steadfast that, no, God damn it, I'm going to watch this Transformers movie and I'm going to love it, then go ahead. So be it. I tried to turn you on to something else. You weren't receptive to it. I'm moving on. But just because I personally don't like something, or you personally don't like something, or like it or don't like whatever, doesn't make anybody a hater. It doesn't mean that they're out to get you. It doesn't mean that they're out to get your thing. You're not a victim. The thing that you like is raking in millions of dollars. It's going to be fine. But stop taking this shit so personally. Because it's not about you and what you like. Nobody cares. Like whatever you want and own it. But stop crying that everybody's out to get you. They're not. You're really not that important. Neither am I. The world does not revolve around you. And people don't have the time or the effort or the energy to torpedo your whatever. All right. That's my piece on that. I just had to get that out. It's been bothering me like all week as I encountered some of this. All right, let's talk about, speaking of which, let us go into the DC Cinematic Universe. Because Empire right now is releasing a number of covers featuring the cast of Suicide Squad in character. Which, of course, means that once again we're back to people taking issue with how Harley Quinn looks, how the Joker looks. It's always how everybody looks. And I once again, this goes back to kind of nerd outrage about everything. Because we learn nothing from the past. We are the very people doomed to repeat history. Because this isn't the first time that people have looked at something that's been different, a different vision, a different take, a different iteration, and written it off because it's not what they would have done or what they would have envisioned or what they were used to, without ever having really seen it in action. We did it most recently with Quicksilver for X-Men Days of Future Past, where everybody looked at it and said, oh my god, this looks horrible, it looks like shit. Get this out of here. This movie is going to be atrocious now because they can't even get the look of this one character right. And the character actually came out, stole the scene he was in, stole the movie by and large, and now people are fine with it. Don't you remember Heath Ledger's Joker for The Dark Knight? And how different it was? With not perfect makeup, more messier, sloppier makeup. The scars instead of just the regular paint job. And people looked at it and they said, oh, what is that? That's no Joker I like. This looks horrible. This movie's probably going to be terrible now. What is Christopher Nolan doing over there? What is going on? Blah, 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 blah. And now, those are the very same people that proclaim The Dark Knight to be one of the greatest superhero / comic book movies ever made. Judging a book by its cover. And we're right back in the exact same place many years later as we continue to see Jared Leto and his version of the Joker for Suicide Squad and everything that may come after that within the DC Cinematic Universe. And why? Look, I get it. It's different. It's different. But it is as different as Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker was from Jack Nicholson's before him. As different as Jack Nicholson's is from Cesar Romero on the Batman TV show. As different as Mark Hamill's animated Joker and the voice he has done for that is from just about all of them. There's no one way to do the Joker. There's no one way to make this character happen. There's no one way to... There's not just one way. That's what makes it so interesting, is that we're not going to see the same character over and 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 over, done to death. Who wants to watch the same movie all the time? Not only is it boring, it's repetitive. So to see a different type of Joker, just because it looks different, it may change the personality a little bit differently. At the core, though, if you get the Joker or shades of the Joker, at least you get the basics of the character right. Who gives a shit if he's got tattoos? Who gives a shit if he's walking around shirtless, with sweatpants? Who cares? Focus on the important things. Too often we place so much value in the minutia, the tiny details, which, when stacked up, help make the greater picture of something. The superficial is always what people focus too much on. It doesn't look right. I don't like the way it looks. When if you sit down and you watch it and it tells a good story and it makes you feel something and the Joker feels right, all that surface level shit means nothing. It's window dressing, literally. Prioritize and focus on what actually matters. And don't even get me started on what Harley Quinn looks like. Go to any convention, any type of comic convention. You don't even have to. You can sit in the comfort of your home and just Google Harley Quinn cosplay. There's not one version of Harley Quinn you're going to come up with. You're going to come up with different versions of Harley Quinn all the time. That doesn't mean that you can't be more weighted towards one over another. That doesn't mean you might not prefer one over another. But they can all work within the context of whatever somebody is doing. So stop being so anal about the Joker can only look one way. Joker can look a number of ways. And he is going to. And he will. And Jared Leto's version in David Ayer's movie is just another kind. I'm sure we'll be fine. Now, if we see Suicide Squad next year, and we're like, that's not really the Joker, like, it doesn't feel like the Joker, they've done something completely off the rails with what's consistent with the Joker, you know, like, all of a sudden he's very quiet and soft-spoken and not chaotic or anarchistic, then we could have a problem. Just because you don't like the way he looks does not mean that the movie is going to hell in a handbasket or down a toilet. So start getting your rage. Take your outrage and properly channel it towards things that you actually should get outraged about. Because how the Joker looks least of your concern. And plus, it's over and done with. They're not going back and shooting the movie, reshooting the movie because 5 people don't like the way he looks. They made a decision. They're going with it. The movie's wrapped. They're cutting it. They're editing it. They're getting it put together. That's the end of it. Crying about it now changes nothing. All it does is make you upset over something that you can't change. Just adopt the right mindset here. And this, I think, is the right mindset. I'll wait to see what happens. I'll wait to see it. I'll wait. Let's see what happens. Because writing a movie off this far in advance before when all of you actually seen is a trailer and still images, foolish on your behalf. It is. All right, let's talk Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones has been on people's mind for quite some time, wondering what is the next step. Where do we go next? Harrison Ford's no spring chicken. And he's not getting any younger. He's just not getting any younger. The longer they wait, the older he's getting. That's just a fact. That's how time works. The more time elapses, the older you get. And eventually, Harrison Ford, not going to be able to be Indiana Jones. I mean, he'll always be Indiana Jones, but physically what you need to make a motion picture, an Indiana Jones movie, Harrison Ford's not going to be able to give it to you. So there's been all sorts of talk about what happens next. Disney buys out Lucasfilm. Disney buys up the rights, I believe, from Paramount for Indiana Jones. They have Indiana Jones. And much like they did with Star Wars, and much like they did with Marvel, they didn't buy these things to just let them sit there. To just let them do what they've always done. And kind of just collect on them with no real display of growth. Just, well, we got them. Feather in our cap. We'll just keep letting them do whatever they do. No, they bought these things to make shit tons of money with them. That's why they bought them. So this idea that Indiana Jones is kind of just going to sit on the shelf and collect dust forever doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You look over at Sony and what they're doing with Ghostbusters, which is what everybody's outraged about. They have a property that they know is worth something. And has really been undermined. And I don't mean undermined in that way, in the usual way. I mean like mining it for more stuff. They've gone under where they probably should have been. And that's because of the long development for Ghostbusters 3. And that not happening. And, the rights issues. And now that all that stuff's squared away, they can do whatever they want with Ghostbusters. That's what they'd like to do over at Disney with Indiana Jones. They bought up Star Wars. They were like, we'll make more. We're not just going to live recycling the saga, the original trilogy and the prequels, and now we'll put it on Blu-ray 4K, and now we'll put the original theatrical cuts, and now we'll do this, and now we'll put it in 3D, and now we'll just keep recycling. They did it to do something fresh and grow out with it. And I imagine that's what they would also like to do with Indiana Jones. Once again, underutilized. There have only been 4 Indiana Jones movies. we really only pretended 3 truly exist. And while trilogies are everything right now, long-running serials and series are not only what the studio would like for money purposes, but fans would like them as well. If you could keep telling a story with the character, so be it. James Bond has now been around for 24 movies and over 50 years, continuing to go on missions. And Indiana Jones was originally conceived as the American version of James Bond. That's sort of what Spielberg and Lucas had in mind when they brought Harrison Ford into this character. So there's always been these rumors, these rumblings about, well, who's going to take up the fedora next? Who's going to get the whip next moving forward? Who's going to step into that role when Harrison Ford just can't do it anymore? And of course, there's always been talk about, well, what if they did another Indiana Jones, an Indiana Jones 5? What if they did something where they were able to bring back Harrison Ford here and at least get one more out of him so that they didn't go out on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? But think about how long we went from The Last Crusade to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, trying to come up with an idea that everybody was happy with, and what we got was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So I don't think that they're in a rush to make a 5th movie happen, even though that then works against them being able to use Harrison Ford. So now we're back to the idea of, well, who could possibly take over? And Chris Pratt, of course, has been the top name. Bradley Cooper's name was floating around for a little bit, but Chris Pratt has been kind of the guy that everyone seems focused on becoming Indiana Jones next. He's the guy that everybody thinks the Disney people want, that they love, that they're willing to hand that responsibility over to, and that his demeanor, his personality would actually fit well into people's perception of who Indiana Jones is. Frank Marshall will tell you no, though. Frank Marshall, just this week, was asked about what the plan is moving forward for Indiana Jones. And I'm going to read you his quote, because it would now lead you to believe that Indiana Jones is going to just die, or cease to exist, or just stop. So here's what Frank Marshall has to say. Quote, "There are a lot of rumors. We haven't even sat down to talk about Indy yet. At some point, we'll sit down. But there's a bunch of people who could probably take the baton. But we are not doing the Bond thing where we're going to call somebody else Indiana Jones. We have to figure this out." I don't know how you move on from that. You can't... They tried the idea of Indiana Jones passing the torch to somebody. They tried to have him pass the torch to his kid. And then Shia LaBeouf swung in the trees with monkeys. And it was a disaster. It was a disaster. So it's hard to bring in somebody else who's not Indiana Jones to forward Indiana Jones. His name's in the fucking titles. I mean, granted, you have Raiders of the Lost Ark first, but then second, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Third, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Fourth, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So how do you have somebody else not be Indiana Jones and move forward with Indiana Jones. How does that happen? I still truly believe that we will have another Indiana Jones that will not be Harrison Ford. And they will help carry Indiana Jones forth into the future. Because I don't think we're going to get one in time to take advantage of Harrison Ford. I don't think they're going to come up with a story just yet. Steven Spielberg already has like 59 projects on his docket that he's interested in doing, let alone another one. While Indiana Jones has been George Lucas's baby, he's doing everything else. I think this is the time when they start to pivot and transition to someone else. And not put a fresh take on it, but just put a fresh face on it. There's nothing wrong with Harrison Ford in the role. I'm still sure that he would be dynamite in something that was up to the standard of Indiana Jones. I just think that they're running out of time. And it's going to be tough to pull it off. And I don't think anybody is ready to say, well, then I guess Indiana Jones just doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't make any sense. All right. I want to talk about the new Adam Sandler movie really quickly. Because I got into some discussions with people as this thing came about. Where once again it became kind of easy to just shit all over an Adam Sandler movie. So Adam Sandler has a deal with Netflix. New film coming up is sort of like a Western comedy of some sort called The Ridiculous Six. It's supposed to hit Netflix in December 11th, I believe, to be exact. And as it usually is, an Adam Sandler movie comes out, and people go, oh, look at this shit. This is awful. How come this is getting made? How come Adam Sandler's still making movies? Blah, blah, blah. And I get it. Most Adam Sandler movies, at least by my standard, aren't very good. I don't particularly find him funny. I think there are some things that he's done in the past. I like Happy Gilmore. Punch Drunk Love I thought was good as far as a more serious thing. I actually am a fan of funny people. The Waterboy gives me some laughs. Big Daddy I got some chuckles out of. Not without merit. I think there are certain films where he's played to his strengths, and then there are others where I thought he's just kind of relied on the shtick. So not every Adam Sandler movie is for me, especially the more recent ones like Grown Ups and Grown Ups 2, not a fan of. Jack and Jill and That's My Boy. None of them do anything for me. But I also understand that there are people who Adam Sandler movies do something for. They do find him funny. They find him entertaining. And that's why Netflix gave him a deal. And you know what? Knowing that I don't have to get out of my house, that I don't have to get dressed or get off the couch to put in the effort to see an Adam Sandler movie, I'll probably watch it. I'll watch The Ridiculous Six now from the comfort of my couch and see what happens. But just this idea that, look, Adam Sandler has built something for himself. He's tapped into an audience that enjoys what he does and has effectively milked it for everything it is worth. And you got to tip your hat to a guy like that. But at this point, if you don't like an Adam Sandler movie, or you don't like the movies he makes, or the characters he plays, why even bitch about it? Just look at it and say, that's not funny, I'm moving on. Or why are you even watching it? That's the thing. Everybody's got this FOMO. Everybody's got fear of missing out. They're like, well, I have to at least watch the trailer because what if this is the one that's good? What if? Or they watch it to hate watch it. Oh, Adam Sandler's in this movie? Oh, it's bound to suck. Let me watch it so I can bitch about it. Adam Sandler is harmless and really shouldn't be at the center of anyone's anger, anxiety, whatever right now. If you like Adam Sandler, great. You don't like Adam Sandler, great. But to go on and on and on about like what the guy does at this point, as if something new is going to merge from what he does. I mean, it could. You want to see something different? Go watch The Cobbler. It'll make you long for Jack and Jill. But you know what he does at this point. So to complain about it, just a waste of oxygen. You know. Like, you know certain things in life. You know at this point if Adam Sandler is for you or not. If he's not, just move on, man. And if he is, I hope Ridiculous 6 does something for you. All right, let's move on to last story. This is our just the worst of the week. It's kind of a good just the worst, I guess, though. Typically for the last story, we pick out just the worst thing that we've come across over the course of the week. And this week, just the worst story that I've managed to find is that the Raid remake is in trouble. Now, this is good in a number of ways, but it just goes to show how kind of tone deaf people were moving forward with trying to remake the Gareth Evans action classic, The Raid Redemption. So once the Raid premiered and the rights were then bought up, and then there was an idea to try to remake the Raid in an American version. So Screen Gems bought up distribution along with XYZ Films as a production company to try and make this. Patrick Hughes, who did The Expendables 3, was signed on to possibly direct. Frank Grillo is still, I believe, attached, but also Taylor Kitsch was involved. And now this whole thing seems to have fallen apart. Screen Gems out. Patrick Hughes out. Taylor Kitsch out. Frank Grillo is the only one who's still kind of hanging on, but like he's also doing a number of other things, so he's not in really a rush where he's got to get the hell out of there. But this once again just kind of goes to show how idiotic the idea was to try and remake The Raid. I understand it's a foreign film. I understand it's got Indonesian subtitles. I understand that American audiences, on some level, aren't going to embrace it widely. There are some people who are just like, foreign film, won't watch it. But the movie's so fantastic, and American actors cannot do what these guys could do, at least in terms of martial arts, to make it even remotely the same thing. You want to do it, maybe take the story, do something else, fine. It's still not going to be this to live up to it or do the same thing. Sometimes you just got to let a movie be what it is and push the hell of it. Sony Pictures Classics should have pushed the hell out of The Raid Redemption and Raid Bernadal and hope for the best. Because foreign films in the past, when they were really good and have been pushed, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was a a huge thing at that point when that movie was released. So it can be done. You just gotta strap a rocket to it and really put some muscle behind it in order to make it happen. So while I am happy to see the Raid remake in trouble and on the brink of collapse, this week I find it to be just the worst that we had to even just get to this point. Because a long time ago, somebody should have looked at this and said, nah, this shouldn't be a thing. All right, that's it for the show this week. This has been Just the Worst Podcast, episode number 7. I'm your host, Billy Donnelly, who you can once again find at joeblow.com, as well as thisisinfamous.com, and here at Just the Worst Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at InfamousKid, as well as on Facebook, facebook.com/BillyTheKid. And here, Just the Worst Podcast, make sure you follow us on Twitter at JTW Podcast, on Facebook, facebook.com/Just the Worst Podcast, and continue to get the shows off of SoundCloud. Once again, I've been told we're right around the corner from getting the website fully up and running, and at that point, all the feeds and streams will be ready to go, so you'll be able to pull this show off of your subscriptions using RSS, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever it is that you so choose to do. So that's around the corner. Just sit tight. We're getting there. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the show. Some food for thought, some things to consider, some things to think about, and maybe you too can grow into being what I seem to now have become, which is the guy who talks people off the ledge, who tries to bring it down and say, hey, it's not that bad, because it's really not. So this has been Just the Worst Podcast, episode number 7. We'll be back next week for episode number 8. In the meantime, just have a good week. Have a pleasant immediate future. I'm out. Peace. Just the Worst Podcast, episode number 7, has been a presentation of Just the Worst Podcast Media.